Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Thrive Physical Therapy. My name is Dr. Ben Bloomer. I'm a physical therapist here at Thrive in Chanhassen. In just a moment, we're going to be talking about some ways that you can prevent shoulder injuries, especially coming up this spring, this summer, a lot of outdoor activities going on. So in just a moment, we're going to get started here talking about ways to prevent shoulder injuries. In the meantime, if any of you guys are watching live, we'd love for you to like our video, share it with your friends and family, tag somebody who might need some injury prevention with their shoulder, or if you know somebody who does a lot of work with their shoulder, please tag them in the comments section below. We'd love for them to see this video. We'd love to help as many people as we can with this video. I always love to know where you guys are watching from. Again, whether you're watching it live or on the replay, on the playback, let us know where you're watching from. If you're watching here locally in Chanhassen or nearby in the surrounding communities, we'd love to know where our viewers are watching from. So as I got prepared for today's talk about shoulder injuries, I started thinking about, perfect timing, really, of some of the stuff that's coming up, especially today. If you're looking outside your window here on April 10th, there's a lot of snow already coming down, and unfortunately here in the Twin Cities and across the state of Minnesota, we're supposed to be getting a lot of snow. So what that means is get your shovels out, get your snow blowers out, and for those of you who are going to be doing some shoveling, I think this video will really be of benefit to you to prevent hurting your shoulder while you're out there. Mostly, I was prepared to talk about some fun spring activities today, like gardening, pulling weeds, raking old leaves, all that fun type of spring stuff. But unfortunately, I think we're going to talk more about snow today. The other thing that's coming up right now, we've got a lot of young athletes getting back into the swing of baseball and softball, or maybe there's some throwers out there who are throwing shot or discus, and so this video can help any of you out there, young and old, anybody who's at work, maybe doing some construction coming up this season, athletes, anybody who does some work with their arms. And again, if you know somebody who's an athlete or who does a lot of work with their arms, please tag them in the video below. We would love for them to see this video. So a couple ways that I want to talk to you guys today about on how to prevent shoulder injuries. The first thing, and probably one of the most important things that I talk about with my patients with shoulder pain, is posture. And posture is very, very important in preventing neck pain, back pain, but for today's purposes, we'll talk about how posture can help improve shoulder pain if you're good at it. So two of the biggest things that I like to talk about. Number one is the height of your shoulders. Whether it's cold outside and you might be doing a little bit of this, or you're typing away at a computer, or you're talking on your cell phone. A lot of what we do throughout our day really elevates our shoulders in an upward tense direction, and we would call that poor posture, bad posture. That's the main thing I want you to be mindful of. Whether you're sitting at your desk or the rest of your workday, try to remind yourself, keep your shoulders down as much as you can. Okay, that's going to help prevent these muscles from tightening up, tensing up, flaring up, and causing more pain. Okay. The second thing that I like to talk about, especially in the upper body when we're talking about a shoulder, is trying to prevent your shoulders from rolling forwards. Okay. And again, a lot of what we do throughout the day, whether we're driving in a car or we're sitting in class taking notes, a lot of what we do, unfortunately, pulls our shoulders very much forward. So again, regular day-to-day activities cause our shoulders to do a lot of this and or this as well. And that is a very compromising position for your neck, your shoulder, and trying to remind yourself as much as you can throughout your day. Keep your shoulders down, keep your shoulders back as much as you can. And it's going to feel like work at first just because your body's not used to it. Your body's probably very used to doing this. So it's going to take some time, it's going to take some work, it's going to take some practice, but whether you're sitting at your desk, sitting in school, working outside, doing some construction, posture is very, very, very important. And while it's cold outside today, make sure you bundle up, layer up, wear a lot of warm clothes so that you don't have to do this to stay warm, that you're more comfortable sitting, standing with your shoulders down and back. All right, so posture. If you know somebody, maybe it's one of your sons or daughters or a friend or family member who doesn't have the greatest posture, please tag them in the comments section below, and they can watch this video and be reminded, shoulders down and shoulders back. Okay, so that's my first biggest tip on preventing shoulder injuries is work on your posture. Okay. Second biggest thing that we'll talk about today is general overuse of the shoulder. Maybe you're a baseball pitcher, or maybe even you just play second base, and you don't have to do too long of a throw or too many throws, but that repetitive motion, throwing, over time, eventually, can start to wear down certain parts of your shoulder if you're not adequately prepared for it. Same thing if you're a carpenter and you're pounding nails on day, or maybe you're a painter and you're painting walls, you're working the roller up and down the walls all day. You know, all those types of things we classify as repetitive motions, and some degree of that overuse can be a source of shoulder pain. In fact, commonly it is a source of shoulder pain. So here's what I'd recommend. First of all, for the athletes out there, and maybe you're a thrower or maybe you're not a thrower, giving yourself, a couple days off during the week from throwing, that you shouldn't be throwing every single day. Giving yourself a couple days off a week, working on some strength and some stability exercises and stretching exercises would be very good and very healthy for you, especially if you're a younger athlete and you're still growing and maturing into your body. Another thing that you can keep in mind working with your baseball coach or your softball coach this spring or this summer, or your track and field coach, to work on some degree of a pitch count, so that, okay, here's the plan for this week. I'm going to throw this number of times today, or this number of innings today, and then tomorrow I'm going to rest, and then the next day I'm going to throw this number of times, and having a very strict regimented program. And we can talk later about of good, healthy ways to structure a program that way. To all, to all of my workers out there, and even just those who are sitting at a computer desk. Sometimes that's the worst for you. Sitting all day doing repetitive motions, typing away on a computer, using a mouse, all of that is classified as repetitive motion. And so here's my advice to you. Whether you're working at your desk, whether you're working outside, heavy lifting, light lifting, whatever it may be, is give yourself a break at least once an hour. Get up from your desk, or take a short little walk away from the job site, even for just 2 or 3 minutes. Take a little break at least once an hour. Maybe do a couple stretches during that break, fix your posture during that break, but just so that you're not spending the whole entire day doing the same repetitive motion and same repetitive activity. So if you know anybody out there, if you're watching live or if you're watching on the replay who is an athlete or somebody who maybe does some repetitive motion, and again, desk workers are a perfect example. Anybody who works in an office doing repetitive motions, please tag them in the video below, or remind them in person. Tell them, hey, you should really take a little break at least once an hour for a couple minutes just to do a couple stretches, get away, so that you're not doing the same thing over and over the whole day. The next big way to prevent shoulder injuries is to do some preventative stretching. And again, whether you're an athlete or a worker, there are a few common muscles that tend to tighten up or stiffen up around the neck and around the shoulder. Some of those main muscle groups are the upper traps. Those are the muscles that go from the side of your head all the way down to your shoulders. A nice easy stretch is to just pull your head gently to the side, keeping this shoulder down and relaxed. And of course, it's good to do both ways. Okay, that's a good stretch to do throughout your day preventatively. Another muscle group that commonly tightens up in anybody are the pec muscles, the pectorals right here in the front, pec major, pec minor. Getting in a doorway or next to a wall and getting your arms up and leaning in is a great way to keep those muscles stretched out. And many other good general preventative shoulder stretches. Crossing your arm over, and of course holding these things for at least 10 to 20 to 30 seconds at a time. Pulling your arm back behind you. And a really good one, especially for the throwers or the athletes, is what we call the sleeper stretch, where you're lying on your side and you're gently pushing your arm down towards the floor, towards the bed that you're lying on. Okay, so all these things can be classified as good, healthy, preventative stretching that you can do before practice, after practice. You should be doing these throughout your day at work just to help keep those shoulders loose, stretched out, and keep them from tightening up or stiffening up. Another good activity to do preventatively is some preventative strengthening exercises. And what I commonly see up here in the shoulders, two main muscle groups that tend to be pretty weak on just about everybody. The first being the rotator cuff muscles, and the second being the shoulder blade or the scapular muscles. A couple easy exercises that I could teach you if you come on in, schedule an appointment with myself or with Colin. We can go through some of these stretches. We can do a couple basic strength exercises. But again, in terms of strengthening, it's those two main muscle groups that commonly need the most work, the rotator cuffs and those shoulder blade muscles. Generally speaking, people are pretty strong with the pressing motions, chest press, push-ups, bench press, the overhead pressing motions, dumbbell press, shoulder press, military press. And if anything, doing too many of those activities can be detrimental. You want to make sure that you're evenly working the pulling muscles, whether it be lat pull downs or rows, trying to keep that balance overall. And that leads nicely into my next point here. I got out a shoulder model. This is a model of a right shoulder sitting like so from the front. Here's the shoulder blade, which, yes, you'd only be able to see that from the back. And then you've got your collarbone or your clavicle here. And then you've got the upper arm bone or the humerus making up right here this shoulder joint. And what I was just talking about was muscle imbalances. And what that means basically is most people tend to have certain muscles that are a little more dominant, a little stronger, a little tighter. And then at the same time, most people have other muscles that are not as dominant, they're weaker, maybe they're a little bit overstretched out. And finding a good healthy balance is very, very important to prevent shoulder injuries. So a quick example, if we're looking at this right shoulder, something that I see a lot is with any joint, you can look at it like a tug-of-war game. There's always a tug-of-war game going on between the muscles in the front of the joint versus the muscles in the back of the joint. And then, of course, you've got the muscles on top of the joint versus the muscles down here on the bottom of the joint. And even at rest, even just sitting here, there's a little bit of a tug of war game going on in your shoulders, in your knees, in your hips, just about every joint of your body. That's kind of a simple analogy I like to use with some of my patients. And so commonly here at the shoulder, what I see is you've got this upper trap muscle right here on top, right up here. Tends to be really dominant, really tight, overused a lot. And then on the opposite end down here, you've got your rotator cuff muscles that are trying to keep and pull your shoulder joint or your shoulder in a more downward direction, down through here. And so what happens? The tug of war game, this muscle that's really tight, really dominant, wins the tug of war game against these rotator cuff muscles trying to stabilize and hold your shoulder joint down. And so what happens is the shoulder, the head of the humerus here, gets pulled in an upwards direction because this muscle is stronger than these down here. And what that does is it causes a source of pain or pinching right in here in the joint. That bone gets pulled up and it causes some pinching in that shoulder joint. So what do? We stretch out this dominant upper trap muscle. We strengthen these rotator cuffs so that that shoulder can sit nice and comfortably within the socket and not being jammed or pulled in an upwards direction and getting pinched right there on that bone. The other tug of war game that happens right here in the front where your pec muscles are, again, those are the tight ones, the dominant ones, versus the muscles back here, the scapular or shoulder blade muscles, the middle traps, the lower traps, the rhomboids, some of those muscles back through there. And then again, what happens? This muscle in the front wins the tug of war game, and it pulls this shoulder a little more forwards. And if you might be able to see here, as that gets pulled in a forwards direction, there's another source of pain or pinching right in through there on the joint. So keeping these shoulder blade muscles strong, keeping your pec muscles stretched, will help keep that shoulder sitting nice and back in the joint rather than pulled forward, causing pain and pinching. Any questions on that? Again, whether you're watching live or you're watching on the playback, I try to use this as a slightly simplified version, but I know that a lot of that terminology and if you're watching this for the first time might be a little bit confusing. So please, if you've got questions, leave them in the comments below or give us a call. Our number is 952-491-4700. Give us a call, and we'd love to see you. We do free 15-minute assessments. Even if you're not having any shoulder pain right now, but you're worried that you might develop some, we'd love to take a look at you and do a preventative screen or check to see if you're at risk for a shoulder issue. The final thing that I'll recommend is it's important to just do some degree of a good warm-up before you start throwing or before you head out to work for the day. Doing something to warm the shoulders up, and stretching can be a good way to do that. Maybe throwing on a heating pad before you go outside for practice to warm up, get that blood flowing. Doing some stretches, shoulder circles, things like that. And then when you're all done for the day, when you're done with practice, when you're done with work, doing some degree of a cool down. Again, some light stretching, maybe even throwing some ice on your shoulder, even if it doesn't hurt. Just doing that is a good preventative way to help keep your shoulder from acting up or causing pain. Again, if there's any questions, please leave them in the questions or comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it with your friends, share it with your friends and family. We'd love for everybody to see it. One final note, we've got an event coming up here Saturday, April 20th. We're hosting a big open house with a lot of other health and wellness experts in the field. My wife Amanda planned it. It's called Spring into Wellness. So we'll have some goodies, some games, some prizes, some food. and some free giveaways, and a lot of really healthy, health-conscious people, experts here to tell you a little more information about physical therapy, nutrition, chiropractic, massage, even mental health, even financial health. So a lot of good stuff. We'd love to see you out here Saturday, April 20th from 1 to 3. Thanks again, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the video, and have a great day. Good luck shoveling snow.